How's it going, everyone? I know it's been a while since we had our last kills of the week, but we are back with chapter 30, 31, 32, and 33 of the Orchard's Bones. Hope everyone's had a great weekend. And let's get to it.
Chapter 30, Ashes in the Archive. The Hall of Masks had never been so loud. Not with shouting, not with steel, but with the sound of paper tearing itself apart. Scrolls curled in their cases, ink running backward. Names long struck from the record bled through the parchment. Histories the Bone Wardens had locked in silence for centuries now scratched at the surface like something buried alive. Warden Helson stood in the center of the chaos, motionless. His mask lay at his feet. His hands were streaked with ink that wasn't ink, memory made liquid. Every time he tried to wipe it off, more appeared. "They're singing him," said Warden Thessa. Helson didn't answer. "Not just in Barrowmere," she continued. "In the Ridge, the Fun, even the coast. They're carving his name into stone again. The sword sigil. The tree. It's everywhere." Helson finally spoke, his voice hoarse. "It was never the god we feared." Thessa tilted her head. "Then what?" "The story." He turned toward the soul fruit tree at the heart of the sanctum. Its branches were heavy now, not just with fruit, but with light. Each orb glowed faintly with a different color. Not all were silver. Some burned gold. Others flickered with green, blue, crimson. Every one of them was a name. Every one of them a memory reborn. "The binding didn't kill Velith," Helson said quietly. "It only starved him. But Aaron's sacrifice didn't just cage a god. It gave the world a weapon we can't control." Thessa's eyes narrowed. "You mean the sword?" Helson shook his head. "I mean the truth." In the corner of the hall, a junior warden stumbled in, face pale behind a cracked mask. "Reports," he stammered. "The bleach ones, they've gone silent. All of them vanished from the threads." Helson closed his eyes. Not dead, not gone, just finished. That night, the Bone Wardens gathered in a circle around the soul fruit tree. None spoke, because they all heard it now. A name whispered through the leaves, soft and steady, like the orchard itself had chosen a side. Aaron Bay, and beneath that, Kale Rennan. Two names, one story. In the silence, they built their order upon cracked, like bone, under too much weight. Chapter 31, The Weight of a Name. The next town wasn't marked on any map. A scattering of cottages, a sagging inn, and a cracked well at the center. A place that should have been too small to know them. And yet, when Kale and Lyra stepped onto the muddy road, a child saw him and stopped running. Not in fear, in recognition. He darted inside one of the cottages. Moments later, half the town had gathered in the square. Not armed, not shouting, just waiting. Lyra's hand twitched near her dagger. Too quiet. Kale raised a hand. "Wait!" A woman stepped forward, shawl drawn tight against the chill. She held something wrapped in linen. Slowly, she unwrapped it and lifted it toward him. It was a crude carving, a sword over a tree with curling roots. The mark he'd seen painted on the chapel door days ago. But here it wasn't paint. It wasn't wood. It was bone. "Say it," the woman whispered. Kale hesitated. "Say what?" Her voice trembled. "The name." He glanced at Lyra. She gave a subtle shrug, her eyes scanning the crowd. Kale took the carving gently in his hand. The sword on his back pulsed once. As if acknowledging it, his voice came out softer than he expected. "Aaron Vey." The crowd exhaled. Not relief, not worship, recognition. Then someone else whispered another name, Kale Rennan. His chest tightened. By the time they left the square, the entire village was murmuring both names like prayer, one old, one new. On the road that night, Kale broke the silence first. I didn't tell them anything. I didn't do anything. You didn't have to, Lyra said. The story's walking faster than we are now. He looked down at his hands. That's not good. No, she admitted. It's not. The sword hummed softly behind him. You're afraid, she said. He nodded. What happens if they get it wrong? What happens if the story they tell isn't the truth? Lyra kicked a stone into the brush. Then you make sure the truth is louder. They walked in silence for a while. And somewhere behind them, in the little village with its cracked well and sagging in, someone began to sing a song neither of them had taught. A boy who carried a dead man's name. A cut in the world. A holy flame. He walks with roots, with blade, with cost, to find what the Hollowlands almost lost. Kale closed his eyes. The myth had grown beyond them, and there was no stopping it now.
Alrighty, be sure to let me know what you think of the story so far, and let's get to chapter 32 and 33.
All targets eliminated.
Chapter 32. When trees begin to listen. The orchard had never been quiet. It only pretended to be. For centuries, the silver trees stood still, their roots tangled in old marrow and their fruit heavy with memory, waiting. The bone wardens called it prison. The lore keepers called it a scar. But now, it was becoming something else. At first, the changes were subtle. A single leaf turned gold at the heart of the grove. A whisper wind moved through the branches when there was no wind to speak of. The roots, buried deep in black soil, twitched like fingers waking from a long sleep. And the fruit, they began to hum. Not with the god's voice, not with the dead, with names. Aaron Bay, Kale Rennan, Lyra Vex. One by one, whisper crossed bark and bone, as if the orchard itself were learning. At the edge of the grove, the bone wardens who still dared to keep watch felt the shift. They stood at their posts, hands gripping relics meant to keep memory still, and heard the first sound in generations that truly frightened them. Laughter, soft, childlike, not cruel, hopeful. The oldest tree, the one that had borne the first fruit, the one that had grown deepest in forgotten lore, cracked open at its roots. A sprout pushed up through the dead soil, not silver, not black, green, alive in a way the orchard had not been since before the gods' hunger. The legend was not just feeding Velen. It was healing the wound. And far below, in the marrow veins where the god once whispered, a voice stirred. I am not the only thing that remembers. Chapter 33, Roots That Speak. The Bone Wardens had never seen the orchard move. Warden Thessa stood at the perimeter wall, mask in hand, her fingers digging into the stone as if to convince herself she wasn't dreaming. The trees were no longer still. They swayed, not in wind, but in breath. Their branches bent as if greeting something unseen. The silver of their bark was warming into a faint pale gold, the color of dawnlight on snow. And the fruit were singing, low, humming, dozens of voices in harmony, carrying a name that had not been spoken in this place for centuries. Aaron Vey. The younger wardens fled the wall. A few dropped their relics and never looked back. Thessa didn't move. For the first time in her life, she felt the orchard wasn't warning her. It was welcoming something. Deep in the citadel, Helson stood before the altar. The third soul fruit was almost ripe now, pulsing with a heartbeat that didn't belong to the god. He pressed his palm to the basin. It showed him nothing, only light. For a man who had built his life on silence, that was more terrifying than any whisper of Velith. On the road, Kale woke to the sound of leaves. Not the normal kind, not the rustle of wind in trees, but the brush of branches. These were closer. Inside, he sat up. Lyra was already awake, crouched low, scanning the tree line with her dagger drawn. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. He nodded. "It's not here. It's everywhere." The sound wasn't outside their head. It was in soil, the roots beneath their bedrolls, the air itself, the orchard. Even this far from Barrowmere, they could feel it. The pen against Kale's chest warmed, not in warning, but in quiet recognition. "The trees," Kale murmured. "They know." Lyra glanced at him. "Know what?" He hesitated. Then, softly, "That we're not just remembering the past anymore. We're making something new." That night, when Kale drifted into half-sleep, he dreamed of the orchard. It wasn't silver. It wasn't cursed. It was green and gold, roots thick and alive, fruit glowing softly in the dusk. And at its center, a figure with no face turned toward him and said, "Keep going. We are listening."
Gas is moving in. New safe zone located. Enemies are dropping into the area. Hostile UAV in the area.
Max.
FFB, danger close. Over. Enemy UAV overhead. Gas is closing in.
Changing max. Changing max.
Tracking a high-value target. Weapons hot.
Changing max.
into the AO.
Priority task. Safety exiting AO. TACOM, we're flying on fumes. UAV returning to tank.
Throwing frag.
We lost track of the bounty target. Contact failed.
Snuff them out.
Alrighty, that will be all for this episode.
Enemy soldier incoming.
Hope you guys enjoyed the chapters. As always, let me know what you think of the chapters and gameplay, and or anything else that you would like to see down below. And see you guys on Tuesday stream. As always, don't let things weigh you down.